For the last 4 years, Brittany and I have been trying to have kids. And we've been unsure about whether or not to make a YouTube video about it just because it's been kind of a struggle for us and it's a very personal matter. But we decided, you know what, we're just gonna make a video about it. We do have some very exciting news to share at the end of this video, but in the meantime, until then, we do want to share some things that we have learned over the last 4 years of trying to have kids and being unsuccessful about it. We wanted to share our story and hopefully help those who might be going through the same thing.
So about 4 years ago, Michael and I finally had the courage to start a family, and a couple months in, I did have a positive pregnancy test. However, a few weeks later, I had a miscarriage. So that was very hard to go through and difficult. We continued to try, and then for the rest of the time, we were unsuccessful. So it was just a roller coaster of emotions. I went through a very, just extremely difficult time, having my hopes up and then down. And then after that, just a negative pregnancy test after a negative pregnancy test. I was going through a roller coaster of emotions. I was very stressed out. It was an extremely difficult time for me. There was a lot of pain and struggle that I was going through. And during that time, it was difficult for me to see other people who were pregnant, who were celebrating becoming pregnant, baby showers, all of that became very difficult for me. I remember when that was going on, how I instantly felt like, this is not me. This is something inside of me. All the women I saw celebrating their pregnancy and being able to start a family could have gone through way more struggles and way more pain than I had gone through. So I started to look more at the bigger picture and change my perspective. And it's a lot like a quote I read. I don't remember who said this, but comparison is the thief of joy. And that was a lesson I was definitely learning firsthand.
Also throughout this time, I was trying to be as encouraging to Brittany as I could be. I don't know what it's like to have maternal instincts and kind of want to start carrying a child. I think it's different for women than it is for men.
Yeah.
That's just my hunch. At least it seemed that way for Brit and I.
Yeah, it was.
In Genesis 1, it describes God creating Adam, and Adam being there fully formed, as a fully formed human body, but yet not having life until God breathed the breath of life into him. So like even if Brit and I could create a fully formed, fully functional, 100% complete anatomically, physiologically human being, we couldn't breathe the breath of life into that child. That is something only God can do. That was something that comforted me, and so that was the biggest thing I was trying to comfort Brittany with. Is like, if we are meant to have kids, it's going to happen, eventually. We just can't do it on our own.
And that realization that Mike talked about did help. It helped give some comfort in that it was out of my control, but at the same time there was still some frustration there, and that led into me learning another lesson a couple years after that. I stumbled across Proverbs chapter 30 verse 15 and 16, I believe. It talks about how a barren womb is never satisfied and never says enough. When I started researching more what satisfied and enough meant, it basically meant like your substance or your value, your fulfillment or your enrichment. Those for me should not come from whether or not I can have kids or not. And that, when I started realizing that, that's when a lot of things changed for me drastically. My value, my worth, it wasn't in that. And it was going through all of that pain and those struggles to then get to this point. I felt like I had become extremely blessed and extremely grateful, and to be able to finally be at peace with everything we were going through.
So I think there's kind of a parallel here to men. Just in my life, I attach my value as a man and as a husband to how much money I can earn, how much money I'm earning. And that's not the case for the men out there. Like, your value does not come from how much money you earn. I'm saying that just as much for me as I am for you.
Yeah.
But that's something that is a kind of a continuous struggle. But I know it in here that it's not true. But in here it feels a little bit differently. And there have been many times in the past where I've not earned nearly as much as I wanted to. And I'm kind of going through the same thing right now. And it's difficult because, like, I want to be able to provide this incredible life not filled with needing more money. I want us to be just good financially and not limited by the lack of money, basically. And my inability to do that, I shouldn't say inability, but by living in the circumstances where that is not the case right now, like it hits on my manhood a little bit. I feel like maybe Brittany was going through something similar in that she may have been, please correct me if I'm wrong, placing her value as a woman and as a wife on like having kids, being able to have kids.
Yeah, and I think also when like it's something you desire so much, and even when I was little, I wanted kids, like lots of kids. And so it's just really hard when you don't see that happening or it isn't happening.
When you're trying as hard as you can.
Yeah, you're trying as hard as you can. So through all of that, I was extremely grateful that that verse shed some light and even bigger perspective, the perspective that I much needed, that my value wasn't determined on whether or not I can or cannot have kids. Also, who I am isn't determined by my circumstances. That's something that doesn't change day to day, or whether or not things are going my way or not going my way. So I was just extremely grateful and blessed and had more peace than I've ever had. And it was more time after that where we did not have any positive pregnancy tests, but I had so much peace and fulfillment and value that I was able to handle it so much better than I had in the years before. So hopefully that may help someone as well with that realization. And also after that time, Mike and I were growing stronger in our relationship and closer, and I was also growing into the wife I always wanted to be for Mike, and just growing more, and things were getting a lot better.
Which leads us to about 4.5 months ago, just after we moved here, all these interesting things started happening.
Yeah.
Like Brittany had a couple dreams about having kids.
Yeah.
And they were different than regular dreams. And then we were out hiking one evening, and on our way back from, or kind of
on our way back to the car to leave.
Yeah, on our second half of the hike, the hike back to the car.
Yeah.
There is this name that came into her mind, not of herself.
Yeah.
But we believe from God.
Yeah, I felt like God was revealing our child's name, and it happened.
Yeah, it was a boy's name.
Boy's name.
And so we're like, wow, that's
interesting.
And Brittany asked me if I'd be okay naming our child that, if and when we had one. And I was like, yeah, that sounds like a good name to me. Fast forward 35, 40 days maybe, and we find out that Brittany's pregnant.
Yeah.
We're gonna be parents.
Yeah.
We're having a boy. Brittany's about halfway along, so she's been pregnant for a little bit now.
Yeah.
And we really wanted to say that in the last video, but we wanted to wait. We wanted to wait and make like a dedicated video about it, which was this, and so we could talk all about like, our infertility story. So yeah, that's it. That's the big news. Hope you guys are well. Love you all. See you in the next one.
Bye.